Ladies and gentlemen, welcome all. Thank you as always for clicking on the video, showing up, stopping on in. Here's your intro served up to you on a platter. And speaking of platter, today we're going to be listening to Anna von Hausswolff. We're going to be listening to the track Evocation. This is going to be off of the album The Miraculous, her third studio album, released in 2015. We're listening to this track because it was suggested and supported by Jurk Fleur de Vries. So Jurk, thank you so much for the recommendation. Hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I apologize if not, but we'll just call you JF. How about JF? So anyways, with Anna, we've listened to the first two tracks off of her album Dead Magic, and I was really enjoying it, but I saw that it didn't seem like a lot of people were really enjoying it, so I kind of came off of it a little bit. I always do that. I test the waters here, and then I go back on my own, and if I wish, I'll continue listening to it in my own personal time. So I really enjoyed what I heard of her, though. I love what she was playing. So happy to come to this album. Checking it out really quick. I see that this album came out, like I said, in Miraculous 2015, and Dead Magic, which we've listened to the first two tracks, came out 3 years later. So we've listened to a little bit more of her later work. Let's dive back a little bit. Listen to this track, Evocation. Now, I've never heard of this word. I know invocation, like you invoke something, typically summoning something or, calling out to something. Never heard evoke. I would imagine where invoking is like calling maybe within. Evo is calling without. I don't know. Giving a little bit of a, I'm just Google searching. I like to learn the definition before we go. Okay.
Evocation.
I know how to say it. I probably said it wrong. The act of bringing or recalling a feeling. Okay, so you're bringing something inside out. Whereas I think if you're invoking, it's like something out, calling it in. Okay, all right. Listen, a little knowledge goes a long way. Never be afraid to learn, even if others laugh at you. You'll be laughing at them to the bank when you're getting that nerd money. I don't know what that means. Anyways, here we go. Started out so dark and haunting, but kind of mellowed out kind of beautifully, like 20 seconds in. Follow the groove. Massive organ. So slow too. I love her sound. Just melts in this. Is that gonna be it? that's going to be it. I'm just curious. Another slow burner. Okay. That track left me wanting more. That track left me wanting a lot more out of it. I know that this sound is not for everybody. Cool. I love this sound. This is heavy. It starts off, okay, listen to how dark and creepy, kind of horrifying it starts off. That is experimental distortion that just like, the singing. The first chord, the singing and the first chord, as her voice rises, as that bubbling rises, everything is creepy, distorted, disfigured. It's kind of like just weird. But listen to how the second chord, I think it was the second chord, listen to how the second chord immediately lightens and mellows everything out. Right. That's it. That's it. I think it is so cool how within 15 seconds, we went from, at least to me, like something incredibly tense and slightly horrifying, very unnerving. And in one chord change, just 1 second strum of that guitar and everything, how it immediately kind of allowed us to exhale, release that tension, and breathe. And it became something beautiful. I think that is so cool, how all of that is evoked in just 15 seconds. Please clap. That's like that for. So I love this kind of sound. I'm not familiar with the genre, and I don't even know if I'm saying it correctly, or I know I'm saying it correctly, but I don't know if this would be classified under such. But the entire second half of this track is kind of like drone. I have never listened to drone, so I'm speaking this out of assumption. I've never listened to drone music. I know that Sun O is one of the big bands. Never listened to them. Maybe that's a band I should explore. It's not exactly the same category, but I mean, you got Chelsea Wolfe, who's one of my favorite artists up there. And in a similar way, like from what I've heard of Anna, she takes a little bit more of a gothic, classical-esque inspiration in the way that she performs with the organ and the instrumentation and everything. And I'm not saying it's classical music. That's not what I'm saying, but just an approach closer to that, an approach closer to a symphony, a dark kind of orchestration, even in simple, in simplicity like this. There's not a lot going on in the sense of a lot of different instruments and a lot of different sounds and stuff. It's a lot of guitar, organ, vocals, the drums, of course, just to push everything out. But it's really her voice and the organ that are like massive in here. Just tidal wave, just catastrophically beautiful and overpowering in the way that plays. And even like with the lyrics and even with the meaning of the word and what we've looked at, it is that feeling coming up and overtaking and coming out, which is so wonderfully executed by her. Her vocals, her singing is just magnanimous. I would love to see her live. Nowhere near, huh? Is she ever coming to like the US? This would be so cool to hear her do this live, to hear her perform this. Because you know that this is the type of music that in person at a concert, you feel the insides of you shake. You feel your soul tremor listening to this kind of music. I think that would be wonderful to hear. Looking at the lyrics just while we're here, there's not much. I see it coming closer now. I see it very clear. The tree, the spring, the history, the spirits that are there. I see it coming closer now, the picture of a place. I see myself inside the house. I'm covering my face. Now, what is she saying? In one hand, she's cryptic enough to, I would imagine, kind of course, obscure the photo, so to speak, for ourselves and the meaning a little bit. But of course, just as we looked at the definition of evocation and a feeling coming back, a nostalgia, a memory, whatever it might be, here we're getting something similar, right? That memory is becoming clearer in her mind. It's coming closer now. We have some material objects, the spring, the tree, the history. What is the history behind the spring and the tree? The spirits that are there. Now, this could represent a lot of things. It could be literal spirits. It could be memories of people that, of course, were alive at one point. and now they're spirits, they're dead. So she's seeing them, in a sense, recalling these spirits back. I see it coming closer now. The picture of a place. I see myself inside the house. So she sees herself. I'm covering my face. Now, 2 questions. Which self is she covering her face? Is she in her present looking back in her mind, and the herself looking back is covering her face so she doesn't see anymore? Or does she see her younger self in her mind, and her younger self is the one covering her face, perhaps to hide herself from whatever the history is inside of that house? I like a track with few words, but the words make you think, and the words work so well in the music and how these feelings are evoked.
Please clap.
And the music, just extremely well done. Really wonderful. Obviously, you're going to have Anna doing the vocals and the organ and stuff like that. Which track is this? This is 7. So this track, perhaps it's really just her and Philip. And maybe Carl Vento, I guess, on the guitars. And Joel Fabianson. Okay, so yeah, you got to let him. Okay, either way. Just a massive wall of beautiful sound coming out here. Love that. Jerk, thank you so much for the recommendation. Thank you so much for the support on that. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I like that sound. Like I said, I know it's not for everybody, but what is, right? Hey, please enjoy the rest of your day. Hope to see you again tomorrow, and I'll see you all later. Bye, guys.